you want access to this podcast earlier than any other viewer, consider becoming a channel member. All tiers get access to this podcast earlier than people who are not channel members, and it does help out this channel a lot. So if you do want to get all of the news updates, discussions, and market information for Flesh and Blood before anybody else, please make sure to become a channel member today. This podcast is also sponsored by Fyendal's Collection. Fyendal's Collection is a collection database website dedicated to showing you the market analytics of all things Flesh and Blood. Looking to track an entire master set? Fyendal's Collection has you covered. It's as easy as creating a collection in their collection tab and choosing which set you'd like to see in all of its glory. There's even an option to only add one of each equipment and cold foil, which really excites my set collecting heart. As a free user, you can upload your collection here to have a great look into what you have accomplished so far in Flesh and Blood. But if you wanted to track your collection in the secondary market, becoming a subscriber really ramps up that analytics portion of Fyendal's Collection. For a measly $3 a month, you get to see the gain and loss each of your collections receive, so you can accurately determine the worth of your cardboard, as far as dollars are concerned. Subscribers also get access to the Market Trends and EV Tracking tabs, too. Market Trends is a great way for you to see what's hot in the Flesh and Blood market, and may even give you some insight into what you should pick up for your own collection. The EV Tracker tool is another great example of the data that Fyendal's Collection can provide. Tired of wondering if you're going to get hosed if you buy a booster box or even a case? Well, the EV Tracker is constantly updated to show what your estimated value is on each Flesh and Blood sealed product, which is a great thing for sealed collectors or even people who are just looking to get into the single selling business. Again, all of these tools and more are available to you for just $3 a month. But how about a free month's trial of the site before you settle in? By going to the subscription section and choosing a promo code, you can enter my affiliate code ASHTCG, all capitalized and all one word, and you will get a month of Fyendal's Collection subscription service for free. So if you've been looking for a new card collecting database for your master set collections, or even just some small little collections of your favorite pieces of Flesh and Blood, look no further than Fyendal's Collection. Don't forget to use the promo code ASHTCG when subscribing to receive a free month of service. Thank you so much to Fyendal's Collection for sponsoring this channel, and let's get back to the video. Welcome on in, my Ashwings, to episode 10 of the Common Language Podcast. That's right, we have officially hit double digits. Super excited. So I'm going to try and keep track again. We've been kind of off the bandwagon for podcasts for a little while, just because I've been busy doing a bunch of bulk sorting and a bunch of these other things. And I wanted to go ahead and continue making these because everybody enjoys the podcast, right? Just me chit-chatting with all of you is certainly a pleasure. So I'm happy to be able to go ahead and do that. So for episode 10 here of the pod, I wanted to go over something that I believe is incredibly important, and I don't believe that I've actually brought this up as a topic prior, but something I wanted to talk about today is the importance of going to an armory for a new player, whether it really be for a new player or a veteran. At the end of the day, it's important that you go to armories if you can, right? Obviously, I know that not everybody's going to have the ability to go ahead and do that, but armories are incredibly important to the overall health of the Flesh and Blood scene. And in most cases, if you're not going to your armory, it's, because of whether or not you've got family stuff you got to take care of, or it's got to be something along the lines of maybe you don't have the right cards for the deck you want to play yet. Don't worry about it. Just go grab a precon or something of the sort, sleeve it up, and go play at your armory. And the reason I say this is because, for one, we are currently working I say we are working, I'm not working on anything, but the people over at LSS are working on a new system for their XP. If you are unaware, if you go to an armory and you win any of your games at your armory, you get XP, or experience. And this experience used to, if you qualified for it, get you invites into things like Pro Tours or national championships or things like that. They have recently just kind of done away with a lot of that, and they've made it strictly based on your elo or your rated level tournament play. So if you go to a ProQuest, that is a rated event. If you go to a RTN or a Road to Nationals, that's a rated event. If you go to a Calling or a Battle Hardened, those are rated events. And those get you XP, but they also get you elo. And elo is kind of a way to determine your skill level, right? How many your wins and losses on a bracket, essentially, to give you an idea of where you stand as a player in the current season. And this elo stays with you throughout. There's no season breaks where it gets reset and everybody's got to start over again. This is strictly just this is your number, you're rated, however high you are in your country or in the world. And it's really cool to see if you're a competitive player. It's just essentially your ranked ladder board. And you don't get elo for going to an armory, but you do get XP. And XP, I'm assuming, is going to be something very interesting when they rework it, because right now, going to an armory and getting XP doesn't mean really anything. But when they do announce that there will be a change, the official change to XP, it will be fairly important to a lot of new players. I'm assuming what they're going to do, and at least I hope this is what's going to happen, is that they institute some sort of reward system for the amount of XP you have, right? You can, they have an online store and you can redeem a prize if you've hit this amount of 90-day XP or this amount of, overall XP. You can redeem a prize through there, or maybe they send you a super cool prize in the mail, or however it might be. I just think it'd be really cool to see stuff like that. Also, what I assume is going to be the case is this is going to help bring new people into the armory scene, because that kind of gives them like a local standing, right? Having XP is really, really good in regards to just knowing how much you've played Flesh and Blood. It's a great indicator of your love for the game and your trials and tribulations into it. So I always suggest going, one, just for the actual digital XP, but also for the physical experience. And by that, I mean just getting reps into other players. As some of you might know, I am very thankful that Talishar exists. I think that Talishar existing is a great way to push the game to new players without them having to invest anything, and it helps with testing on a more consistent basis and working through your play lines, and you're able to get match into match into match. And if you want to play 50 matches of Flesh and Blood in the matter of a day, you can certainly go ahead and do that. And that is really, really important when it comes to learning your deck, learning what you want, and also testing out the deck before you actually go and buy the cards for it. But Talishar does give you kind of a false level of comfort when it comes to playing the game. Oftentimes we see this with the card Fyendal Spring Tunic. Fyendal Spring Tunic is a generic chess piece that is pretty much run in nearly every deck. And this chess piece, at the beginning of your turn, you are supposed to put a energy counter up onto the tunic, right? We call this ticking up your tunic. And this is adding a resource to it. And then once it's got 3 energy counters on it, it stays at a max of 3. And at any point you can remove those to get a resource at instant speed. It's a very, very powerful card. And the issue I have with Talishar is that you don't get the experience of having to tick up your tunic, which is both good and bad. It's good because it gets you in the idea of like, okay, it's automatically doing this thing for me, so I don't have to worry about where my resources are at. This is if I was playing at my best and making sure that my tunic was always getting ticked up at the beginning of my turn. But it's also bad because if a system automatically puts a counter on something for you on Talishar, and you just assume that that's always going to happen because that's the mindset you're in whenever you're playing Talishar, if you go to an LGS and you play Fyendal Spring Tunic, you go to tick up that Tunic counter, and guess what? You may have forgotten one. You may have forgotten 2 triggers. You may have forgotten to tick up your Tunic at all for several turns. And that's just because you get stuck in the mindset of this is, a trigger that is automatically going to happen and that I don't have to worry about it. But it is something you have to remember to do. So that's why I view the physical experience of playing Flesh and Blood at your LGS significantly higher than playing on Talishar. The other thing also is that you get to get into the habit of reading people's body language. Now, everybody's body language is a little bit different, but in cases like this, you have to realize that a good amount of trading card games are played a lot like poker, in which your opponent will either tell you that they have something really, really good in their, just by the way they express themselves in their face, or they'll have a good poker face and they'll just go ahead and kind of dead blank stare at you and not give you any information in regards to what they have in their hand. And it's really important to have that poker face because you do not want your opponent to kind of in a way know what you have in your hand. And this is a great way to learn how to do that, how to make that poker face, how to interact with your opponent. Maybe you're a distractor, right? And that's, that's something that's very interesting is I like to make jokes when I'm at the table, just because I also enjoy making jokes at the table, but also it's to kind of get my opponent off guard to realize that I'm not super serious, right? And if they think that I'm not super serious, it means that they might end up taking a little bit of a different game plan than what they initially had in mind, because they think I'm just some goofy duelist who's going around and playing other people in cards. While they're not wrong, it does give me an edge in regards to kind of letting people let down their guard while I come in for a very, very large attack. So it's all based on those things. I'm not saying those are really things you're going to learn off the top of your head, but overall you get the game is played in the flesh and blood. So if you are attempting to be competitive, you should learn how to play your deck in the flesh and blood, because it is not going to be the same if you're going to go to a calling or to a ProQuest and you get there, you sit down and you miss a bunch of triggers, or you sequence your cards in a weird way and you don't have the access to an undo button. Then you're looking at a pretty weird spot. So you get physical practice at an LGS, and you get XP for the XP system of Jam, right? But another thing you also get is awesome promo cards. All right. I don't know if you know, but a lot of these promo cards, which is just essentially extended art and or foil versions of cards that normally would go in your deck, are given out as prizes, or participation prizes really, at LGSs for their Armory nights. So if you are looking to pick up some wonderful, cool, shiny promos, versions of cards that you're only able to get at an Armory night, I suggest going, and even if you go 0-4, you're still at least walking out of there with a Armory prize. And in some cases, you might even be able to get a participation pack as well. Some places do it, some people don't. Prizing is going to differ depending on the LGS you go to. But in most cases, people will normally just get a pack and then a promo, even if they go 0-4. So for instance, LGSs that I go to, if I pay $5 for entry and I walk out of there with a pack and a promo, not only did I get 3 to 4 rounds of experience with the deck that I'm learning to play, but I also got a promo card and I got a pack. Packs tend to go for about $5 at an LGS anyway. So pretty much what you did is you spent $5 for a pack and you got a promo with it for free, and then you just got to play for additional prizing if you ended up winning. So I think it's a very, very awesome thing to do. It's never a lose-lose ever. The only time it's really bad is if, let's say you go 0-4 and you drove an hour and a half to get to your LGS. That could be a lose-lose to you, but at that point you have to realize where your priorities are. And if an hour and a half drive to an LGS to play Flesh and Blood is going to help your mental, do it. If it isn't, and it's just like, oh, whatever, it's another day, I could have been doing something more important, do the more important thing first. Totally understandable. There's no need for anybody to get wild and crazy with the overall concept of I need to go to an armory every single week or go to 2 or 3 armories every single week. I try to fit in 2. But if you can't fit in 2, just go to 1. If you can't fit in 1, then you can play on Talishar. And then when you have the opportunity to go, you can go. I think it's always good to be prepared, but just know that it's meant for fun, right? And this next part's for new players to kind of soak in, because if at any point you as a new player are looking to maybe switch your deck to somebody who you feel is more to your play style, or maybe you're just looking to get into the game and you're not sure where to start, there are tons of things at the LGS for you to buy, for you to get those cards and get that overall idea of how to play these heroes, right? There are Armory decks, there are Blitz decks that you can upgrade to be Classic Constructed. So if your format at your LGS is Blitz, you can just buy a Blitz deck. If your format in your LGS is Classic Constructed, you can buy an Armory deck. And, vice versa. You can build an Armory deck or buy an Armory deck and then upgrade it with bulk that's there at the shop, if that's easier. There's tons of cool ways to go about building the deck. Something that I always recommend is that if there are any videos on it, I know I have a few here on my channel, and I'm going to be making a couple more in regards to very basic budget lists. I have a lot of bulk at my house, and with this bulk, I am able to create a physical deck to bring to any of my LGSs where I can play these heroes and try them out for myself. Is it going to be the most efficient version of it? Probably not, but it's going to be effective nonetheless, because it means that I get to go, okay, cool. I'm going to then take all this and slap it together, a bunch of rares and commons that I got from bulk, and I'm going to go play at my LGS. And if the deck functions well enough, and I go, okay, yeah, like I'm getting the idea of this hero and how they play, and I'm really, really excited to see what they can do once I get some Majestics or even like a Legendary to play around with, then you're looking at an entirely different ballpark. So it really is a very, very unique way to go about playing. And oftentimes it's met with very strong decks being met up with your much weaker decks. But even if you're a pro player, right? If you're a veteran, you're going to LGSs, maybe even give this a shot too, right? Pick a day that like there's a hero you wanted to play, or maybe there's a hero you currently play really well, and you want to go, hey, I'm going to dumb this deck down with just bulk and see how they play. And that way you can go ahead and go, okay, I have the skill to be able to bring a deck that has no legendaries or majestics and see how far I can get with it. But those are personal challenges and things like that. So obviously it's a fun little thing to do if you're trying to get everybody onto the same playing field and the same level when it comes to an armory. Because that is the unfortunate downfall, and something that I will bring up in regards to this, because it can't just all be positives. There are some negatives. And the some negative is that the players who are playing in your armory have probably been playing the heroes for a while. And not all of them, but a good portion of them have probably been playing for a long time. And if they're playing a hero currently, they probably bought all the things they need for that hero, including the legendaries. They probably had a bunch of the majestics they already needed from previous sets, and their deck is fully tuned out and ready to be brought to a calling or a battle hardened or a pro quest or whatever. And your deck is a pre-constructed armory deck that you just purchased from the store. This is where there's a bit of a power imbalance, because Majestics and Legendaries, while not necessary for you to play the game, do certainly make your deck better, right? I will not deny that if you are playing an Assassin or a Ranger and you get even one Codex of Frailty inside your deck is already working incredibly more efficient than it was when you just bought, the deck prior, right? When it was just commons and rares. Even with just one Codex of Frailty, your entire deck shifts to be in a different level of power. And that is what you're going to be going up against in most cases at your LGS. But don't be afraid to lose, because in most cases, your opponent will be able to tell you maybe what they're doing and how best to counter that, how it looks at the meta. There are even times in which you can view these levels of gameplay and go like, hey, how do I counter this? Or how would I counter this? There are a lot of times I've seen players, even back when I was first starting, they would give me an entire rundown about how to beat their hero. That was just what they were just like, this is how you beat this hero. And I do the same thing now, right? If I'm playing a hero and my hero seems really, really daunting, I just go, hey, this is how you beat them, right? This is how you beat this hero, at least, my own personal standing. This is how you beat this hero. And it would be a pain in the butt to have that happen to yourself. But it is something that can happen, and, you just got to work hard and train for it. Anybody who picks up Flesh and Blood for the first time ever and then immediately doesn't get it and then goes, oh, well, I didn't win on my first game, so I might as well give up the game, is not in the right mind state. They want you need to put in the practice, you need to put in the reps, you need to be able to really, really focus on the game itself, and just you learn a lot, right? As you continue to play, you learn what lines work, what lines don't, what cards are okay, what cards are not okay, and you learn. And that's what it's all about, is learning. So while there is that imbalance of power at a Armory level, it's not the worst I've ever seen it comparatively. I think that in every game, you're going to have that. You're going to have the people who are willing to spend the money to get their deck to be the best and most powerful it can be. And then you are going to have the people who are going to go, oh, well, I just threw a bunch of these cards that happen to fit with the theme of the deck together, and I'm going to hope for the best. And both of those are very valid ways to play. So I like to keep my decks kind of at Armory level-ish. The only downside is that where I am located, Colorado has a lot of really, really great players. And so even at an Armory level, we are very competitive and very, it's almost like running a pro quest every single weekend. So it's important to bring that about and have that discussion. And I really hope that it enlightens people in regards to maybe what they're trying to get into when it comes to the game. Take your time, get a bunch of bulk from people, start throwing some stuff together, put a bunch of generics in your deck, and just go like, hey, I'm looking to just try this out and see what happens. You let me know if, this is a weird way to play, or if this doesn't work out the way it should, and you can make changes to your deck as need be. But it's just really important to go to your Armory, enjoy the game for what it is, and grow, right? Meet with the community, make friends at the community. I know several people who are watching my content who will probably be watching this in a week after it's been released. I met a lot of these people at Armories, and it's been a joy to be keeping connections with these people and talking about Flesh and Blood and our love for the game, and seeing everybody grow with it has been amazing. And so I do suggest go to your Armory, please, because you're not going to regret it. It's a lot of fun and you learn a lot. So it is worth it at the end of the day. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this is a little bit of a short one here for the pod. Just wanted to go ahead and make a quick thing here. Now that we're not talking about market stuff, this ends up taking like significantly less time. So it's nowhere near as long of a podcast episode, but it is just me. I think if it was me and somebody else on here having a discussion, I think that it would probably go for significantly longer. But it's just me and my thoughts, and you guys are stuck with them forever. So thank you guys so much for watching today's episode of the Common Language Podcast. It's been an absolute joy to talk into this camera and microphone for you. But if you wanted to go ahead and support the channel in many different ways, you can go ahead and start by hitting that like button down below. You can also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and you can even become a channel member. Channel members do get access to these episodes of the Common Language a week earlier than everybody else does. So if you want to go ahead and get in on this and have this fresh in your brain, I should say, when the topic of discussion comes up, then you have that, right? But if you don't want to do that and you want to wait a week, you can certainly do that. You get other perks and things from channel memberships. I'm hoping at some point to maybe even do special giveaways for our channel members only. So if that is something that you guys want to be a part of, you can become a channel member. I'll go ahead and make posts on that later once I figure that whole thing out. And then, yeah, we should be right as rain. So thank you everybody for hanging out with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. You wonderful Ashwings. I'm so happy to have you here. And leave a comment down below. Let me know what your Armory experiences have been. Whether it's, you've been going to Armories for 5 years, or you are just starting and you're nervous and you're not sure what you want to do when you go to your Armory. You're nervous to lose. Feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from everybody about their experiences going to their Flesh and Blood events. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you continue having fun in the Flesh and Blood. And I'll see you all in the next episode of the Common Language Podcast.